Come, let us recite. From refining ore into gold, and then savor effortless meditation. Oops, let's see here. I gotta push the right button or I ain't gonna go. So I'm going to highlight the title of the text and the author's name. And away we go. It is taught to be the path of every form of liberation, the common basis of all the innumerable practices, such as moral discipline and so forth. It is the mother of all the Buddhas and the universal path of liberation. If it did not exist, there would be no path. Therefore, this is the supreme path of complete liberation. Well, they said they've done a great job of building this up, but they haven't actually gotten deep into the specifics. To do that, I'm going to enlist the help of neuroscience. Both this text and these visual aids are available for free download as PDFs. Every living human has a central nervous system. And everyone, to some degree or another, has a spinal cord. Well, you really can't see my pointer unless I click the right button. There you go. Here's my pointer in all its glory. This is known by many names. We might call it our autonomic nervous system, but the ancients would refer to it as our Buddha nature. And when I'm done with this explanation, you could as well. Every time we inhale, we are wired to automatically access the middle bit of our spinal cord, known as the sympathetic nervous system. It has evolved to help us to notice in a very special way. It has evolved to help us to notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. It has evolved to help us to notice mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. It has evolved to help us notice the full spectrum of human experience, from the external to the internal, from the physical to the mental, from the pleasurable to the painful, from the interesting to the boring, from the glorious to the grotesque. But what are we to do with that which we noticed? Consider, if you will, the act of exhaling. Every time we breathe out, we have evolved to automatically access the end bits, the lower bit and the upper bit of that same spinal cord. Those end bits are known as the parasympathetic nervous system. They have evolved to help us to physically relax and mentally release to such a degree that which we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less stressful, less permanent, and less defining. Humans are funny. We evolved to think symbolically. Perhaps that is why in every language and in every culture we find figures of speech. Consider the following figure of speech. Every time we relax into our exhalation, that which we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void, like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although it could look tantalizing to the eye, feels non-graspable to the hand. This is not made possible through belief. This is not made possible through theory or calculation. This is not made possible due to magic, to visualization or supplication. This is made possible for one thing and one thing only. We have a fully functional spinal cord. Now you might say, dude, it ain't no thing. Everyone's got a spinal cord. Not everyone's a Buddha. What's up? Glad you asked. Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, that all of us were conditioned to be minions of patriarchy, and that we're rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. At least we start off that way. And most of us try to evolve beyond that. About 10% of us tend to be really successful and are actively striving to be flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. Those of us still stuck in the thrall of our own rigidity and controlling tendencies tend to rely upon the front of our brain to focus and to analyze. And although there is a sustainable way to do that, overworking and overusing that area can exhaust us to the point that we begin presenting with symptoms of depression, no less triggering our amygdala, the seat of both anxiety and aggression. Hey, how's about some good news? When we passively cooperate with our autonomic nervous system, not only do we gain access to peace, but we calm our amygdala and gently stimulate our anterior, oopsie, where's the thingy? Where's the pointer? Okay, there we go. And gently stimulate our anterior cingulate gyrus, which functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy. We can't think our way or coerce our way or energy work our way into love and peace, but we can passively cooperate with our autonomic nervous system in a way that produces those two effortlessly. Now, that's not to say that when we meditate and practice mindfulness, all the assholes go away. ICE stops harassing, abusing innocent people. Billionaires stop raping and exploit the economy. No. Shit still happens. But it helps us to cope with it. It helps us to cope with assholes without joining their number. It helps us to be our best self. It helps us to be the person that our dog already thinks we are. It helps us to be the person that our cat thinks we are when we give it the wet food. But it sounded much more salacious than I intended. Now, there remains a question. Having been conditioned to be controlling and rigid, how do we not only cooperate with our autonomic nervous system, but do it in a manner that is passive? Here's the answer. Every time we breathe in and feel our chest swell with air, we could silently and mentally recite the verb, watch. Every time we silently let's try this again. Every time we feel our chest somewhat subtly sink as we exhale, we could silently and mentally recite the verb rest. And that's it. We do that. Maybe for 5 minutes, maybe for 50 minutes, maybe once every 12 hours. The more we do that, the more we cannot help but notice change within and without. Change that we've taken for granted, we can't help but notice. We can't help but notice the changing of the seasons, and thus the impermanence of a year, the waxing and the waning of the moon, and thus the impermanence of a month, the rising and the setting of the sun, and thus the impermanence of a day, the swelling and the sinking of our chest, and thus the impermanence of a breath. The more we practice mindfulness and meditation, the more we cannot help but experience greater kindness of intention, communication, conduct, and even commerce. The more we practice mindfulness and meditation, the more we cannot help but notice our choices and utterances and deeds beginning to flow not from a calculated contrivance, not from wild scatteredness, but instead from centered spontaneity. And thus, simply by playing with our natural proclivity to watch and rest in harmony with our breathing, we find ourselves not only practicing the Buddha's Eightfold Path, but mastering it to the degree that we practice it spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. Perhaps that is why the Buddha explained in his famous discourse of the 4 bases of mindfulness that one could master his path in as little as 7 days. Now, of course, that is not taught in institutional Buddhism. That has been hijacked by patriarchy. But it is whispered of in proto-Buddhism. That is the bastion of matriarchy, of yin, of humanity's best hope to be good to each other. We are able to meditate, not because we're special, but because every human has a factory-installed spinal cord. And because of that spinal cord, because of its centered spontaneity that it helps us to access, we're able even to use the front of our brain sustainably and beneficially. Having completed our opening lesson, let us take a moment to shift gears. It is Luke Skywalker Friday afternoon. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi. After about 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is the Dzogchen Sende Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I have harnessed my autistic special interests as well as my ADHD hyperfocus to spend about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that I can become your personal nerdy, neurodivergent guide to nirvana. Welcome, my friends, to meditate like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. For the remainder of this afternoon's live stream, let us simply sit and breathe and watch and rest. Remember, it's not our job to control the depth or the rate of our breathing. It's not our job to concentrate. Concentration is antithetical to the peace and love we desire. It's our job to simply, silently and mentally recite, watch and rest in harmony with each inhalation and exhalation. Content that we will observe, we will perceive sights and sounds and sensations and flavors and scents. We will emote the full spectrum. We will experience the full spectrum of human emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. Rather than push and pull, we'll practice a remedial non-duality, which is basically having the same reaction to whatever comes up, which is to simply notice and relax. Do that, and you cannot help but master the path. Now, you're not alone. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or philosophy, simply do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window, for I periodically open my eyes and check for questions. If you, like me, are prone to arthritis, I encourage you to gently adjust your legs every 15 minutes or so. Let us not gut it out. Let us practice meditation hedonistically. Start off at 5 minutes a pop. After a week or so, you can bump that up to 10 minutes. After a week, bump that up to 15 minutes. Progressing an additional 5 minutes every week. Within 12 weeks, no, wait, 12 weeks. Yeah, I guess 12 weeks you could be meditating for 60 minutes twice daily. That's pretty cool. But respect your body. There's a difference between being bored and needing to stop. And in time, you'll know when to end your session. But from personal experience, I can tell you that if you look for a reason to cut your practice short, you'll always find one. We do not watch and rest to make that which we noticed go away. That's just the duality of pushing and pulling. We watch and rest to make peace with the present moment, be it interesting, boring, glorious, or grotesque. Thanks, Ruth. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. Oops, wrong button. In approximately 3 hours, I would very much like to return, lead today's dusk meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.